Right now, Frieren Beyond Journey's End sits atop my anime list, top rated anime. Many of you have seen the first half of the show, and I'm sure some of you have never heard of the show before. Does it deserve to be the highest rated anime at this time? Is it worth watching? Is it original? What's it about? I'm going to be talking about all of this, and hopefully you can watch it and make your own opinions on the show. So, let's talk about it. So what is Frieren about? We start off with our protagonist Frieren, an elf mage who was a part of the legendary heroes party that defeated the Demon Lord and brought peace to the world. Of course, that was many years ago, and the hero of the party, Himmel, is at the end of his life at the beginning of the story. After his passing, Frieren realizes the significance of her journey and of her friends, and regrets not doing more to learn about her friends and deepen their bonds. She regrets previously not having strong feelings about her adventure and companions, and seeing it only as a small portion of her life. This brings us to the death of her second party member, the priest Heiter, who asks Frieren to apprentice his adoptive daughter Fern. This would be the start of a new adventure for Frieren, one that she can cherish and appreciate properly compared to her previous one. An adventure where she can understand humans better and create strong personal connections to them. Let's start with the main characters of the show. Obviously I've talked about Frieren herself, but I think it's important to mention the previous party members of the hero's party. We have Himmel the hero, the leader of the group, Heiter the corrupt alcoholic priest, Eisen the strong dwarf warrior, and Frieren the elf mage. It's important to mention these characters because they are the catalyst for Frieren's second journey, and instead of their story being told all at once, it's slowly fed to us in small chunks throughout Frieren's second adventure, as if we are seeing things through her perspective and she's just remembering the good times spent with her friends as we visit places that remind her of her original journey. As for Frieren's second journey, she's joined by the previously mentioned Fern, a young mage who was raised by Heiter and later Frieren. Her relationship with Frieren is a joy to watch, as she often acts like a mother to Frieren, which is a fun role reversal you wouldn't expect from a young lady who is an orphan, compared to the elf that's over 1,000 years old. Fern is responsible and mature beyond her age, but despite this, she has her moments where she can become upset and behave like a child. As well as sometimes being cold and stern, I think her interactions with the other party members are a joy to watch. Next in Frieren's party would be the warrior Stark, the former apprentice of Frieren's old party member Eisen. Stark is a very powerful warrior, but his lack of battle experience leaves him a bit low on confidence, and he can often act cowardly. Stark, like his master, doesn't let his fear stop him from doing the things he needs to do, and he realizes that fear is a normal human emotion and doesn't feel too bad about getting scared. Stark can act carefree and childish sometimes, but at the same time, he's a strong and dependable party member, as well as being one of the kindest characters in the show, often going out of his way to help strangers. Final member of Frieren's current party is the priest Sein, who hails from a small village, and very quickly it's shown he's a very talented priest, despite the fact that he's far more corrupt than Heiter ever was. Sein enjoys smoking, gambling, and older women. This doesn't stop him from having a truly kind heart and acting as a parental figure for Stark and Fern, often giving them advice when Frieren can't. Sein can easily pick up on how others feel and help offer guidance, like a good priest should. He can also relate to Frieren, as he also has regrets about his past. When he was younger, he dreamed of becoming an adventurer, and had the opportunity to do so with a close friend, but chose to remain in his village as a priest with his brother, believing it to be the right thing to do. The characters are definitely one of the strongest points to Frieren. I think it's really important for a good story to have a strong cast of characters. What I love about Frieren's cast is that they have great chemistry and balance. Even though the story takes place in a generic fantasy world, the group of characters are anything but generic. Each one feels unique, and it takes very little time for each character to become endearing. A very strong point for a story is having characters who bring out the best of each other and play off each other well. Frieren excels in this. You can take any combination of characters from Frieren's party, and I will get the same amount of enjoyment watching them. I don't feel pulled to just liking one character or having a favorite. They're all great and have unique and fun relationships with each other. Most characters in Frieren also reverse your initial expectation of themselves. Frieren you would expect to be mature from her long and experienced life, but often acts childish and can be very out of touch with the world around her, because she has the tendency to be lazy and not stressed about time. Fern, I've touched on, is mature beyond her age and can act like a mother of the party. but will reverse her stern and mature character when upset and is not above being pouty and moody and acting like a child. Stark is originally presented as a strong warrior by his master and by the townspeople he saved. Then Stark admits to having no combat experience and being cowardly, saying that him saving the townspeople was a stroke of luck. This gets turned on its head when Stark single-handedly defeats the dragon he was afraid of, without any assistance, just because he was under the assumption Frieren would help if he kept it busy for 30 seconds, and that's how long it took him to kill it by himself. And finally, Sign reverses the expectations that come with being a pious priest, when he is in fact a very corrupt and sinful person by traditional standards. This doesn't stop him from being an observant and empathetic person though. For me, the characters of Frieren are one of the strongest components of the anime. With the main cast covered, I can now talk about the other points that make Frieren so good. I'll start by talking about the pacing of the show. It's important for an anime to have good pacing. If you drag things out for too long, fans will lose interest. Move too fast and fans will be left unsatisfied and will be more likely not to connect to the show. I think the pacing of Frieren is perfect. The way the past is drip fed to us from episode to episode instead of being one big detached episode is great. Each episode you will usually have 1 to 2 complete stories to them. Each episode usually leaves me feeling satisfied, but also ready for the next one. The introduction of new characters is well spread out, and each new character is usually given the proper spotlight when they are introduced. The setting, which I've touched on a little bit before, is nothing to rave about. It's a pretty standard fantasy world any anime fan is pretty accustomed to, but I think the setting doesn't hold the show back at all, and proper time and consideration is put into making every village or town personal, and the world building in Frieren is quite nice. Places they travel to are not going to leave a big mark on the viewer. They're not going to be at the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about the show, and that's not a bad thing. The anime is much more about the journey rather than the destination, and these locations they travel to are not boring. They serve their purpose for that given episode and the characters move on. The deeper themes and meaning in a piece of fiction can often be different depending on the person watching the medium. For me, I think a big part of Frieren is retroactive regret, which is something most adults can relate to. I think most people can probably look at some point in their past in which they did something different or had a different outlook and approach to something at some point in their life. Frieren has a great message that it's not too late to right your wrongs or better yourself going forward. Living in the present rather than just living in a past you regret. It does a great job showing this whether it's Frieren going on her second journey with a better attitude or Cyan who initially thought it was too late for him to become an adventurer and regretted not joining his friend, to him joining Frieren and changing his life for the better, living in a way where he won't have any regrets. Loss can have a profound impact on a person, and it's the catalyst that sets Frieren's second adventure in motion. An adventure where she will work towards understanding her companions, and an adventure she will look back on without any regrets, righting the wrongs of her first journey. Now I hope I haven't led you to assume that Frieren is a boring show void of excitement, and that couldn't be any further from the case. As the show builds up to some excellent fights, whether it's Stark showing his true strength against a dragon, or the party fighting against demons, the show produces some action that stands out and feels rewarding to watch, and balances the many more peaceful scenes focused on developing the relationships of characters. Frieren truly has some iconic fights, and many more to come. At the start of the video, I talked about Frieren being the highest rated anime on my anime list. Does it deserve it? I'd say Frieren Beyond Journey's End brings the highest quality to the fantasy genre and redefines what it means to be original in what is the most oversaturated anime genre at the moment. The characters and themes of the show are exceptional, and each episode is executed so well. I have no problem with it being the highest rated anime on my anime list. It's a show that always produces quality and entertainment. I couldn't recommend this anime enough. There's a good chance it could be anime of the year, and it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching my video on Frieren Beyond Journey's End.